tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They were hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal, it's hit him on the pad, he's out! Lions gone, New South Wales are 9 down! Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car! Oh, I think it's hit a car! What a way to bring up your 50!
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Oh, hello everybody. What a crazy day of Test cricket. Boxing Day lived up to the hype. It had everything. It had a youngster on debut, absolutely caning the Indians. Had the Kohli shoulder barge into the youngster. Had a huge crowd, and it could not have been a better day's cricket. So 87,242 people turned up to the MCG to see a brilliant day's cricket. Australia finished at 6 for 311. Steve Smith is not out 68. Pat Cummins is not out 8. Australia at one stage were 2 for 237, but then a clatter of wickets has brought India back into the contest. No surprise, Jasprit Bumrah was the leading wicket taker for India. He took 3 for 75 off 21 overs. The top scorer of the day was Marnus Labuschagne with 72. But the headlines are all around Sammy Konstas, 60 off 65 balls on debut. He brought up his 50 off just 52 deliveries, the third fastest half century on debut by an Australian. He's also the youngest ever opener for Australia. So it had absolutely everything. But let's talk about, we're going to get into all the action, go right back to the beginning, but I want to start with the first thing, which is, will Virat Kohli be suspended for the Sydney Test match? Now, for those that haven't seen the footage, early on in the day, when Sammy Konstas started to smash the Indians all around the place, you could tell they were rattled, and Virat Kohli, trying to get under the youngster's skin, went up and basically charged into Sammy Konstas, walked straight into him. You can tell there's a lot of images that you can show clearly that Virat Kohli changed his line to walk into Sammy Konstas' way. He hit him with the shoulders, and then Sammy didn't back down. He started saying a few things to the legend. Then Usman Khawaja came in, he put his arm around Kohli. Interestingly, we'll get to that in a minute. And overall, then things kind of cooled down a bit. But Usman Khawaja was just on the radio saying that, there was a bit of sledging going on out there. They were giving it to Konstas. Konstas was giving it back to Kohli and Bumrah. But let's go through everybody's role in this. There is no doubt Virat did it intentionally. And if that's the case, he deserves a sanction. Will he be suspended for the Sydney Test? I would say that is very unlikely. If you look at the rules, he could lose 3 demerit points for this offence, which would mean he could play in the next Test match. And I actually want to see him sanctioned, but I don't want to see him miss the next Test match. I think, we all want to see our stars play. It was a regrettable incident, no doubt, but it was just a gentle shoulder barge. And he, as I said, he deserves sanctions, whether that's 3 demerit points and a hefty fine. But let's not go overboard here. I don't think he should be suspended. And it would be disappointing if Virat Kohli would have missed the New Year's Test over this. But he certainly deserves a dressing down. It was poor behaviour. And it just shows how much Sammy Konstas was able to rattle this Indian team. And, the whole momentum of the series changed in that moment when, before this Test, it seemed like Australia had no answers to the Bumrah barrage. But now this 19-year-old young tyro was able to change the momentum. Australia got off to a great start. They were none for 81. So that's what it shows, how effective he was at counter punching. And that's why we got this reaction out of Virat Kohli, this crazy reaction. As I said, dress him down, fine him, but I don't think they should suspend him. So obviously it was all Virat Kohli's fault. Konstas did nothing wrong. And then there was some comments, and I had a few messages from mates who were saying, why was Khawaja putting his arm around Kohli and not putting his arm around Konstas? And I actually think Khawaja did the right thing, because what Kohli wants to do is he wants to intimidate Konstas. He wants to draw Konstas into an argument, into a fight. He wants to take Konstas out of the great batting zone he was in and get him into this heated argument. And hopefully you can get him to, play a false shot, get, all hyped up with adrenaline, and therefore you get the wicket. So I can see what Kohli was trying to do. And Khawaja did the right thing. What you want to do in that situation, you're the experienced pro. You want to try and calm everything down. You want to keep Konstas in the zone he's in. You don't want him to get drawn into this stoush with Virat Kohli. So I thought Khawaja's performance was good, and I think that's exactly why the selectors did the right thing in sticking with Khawaja for these last two test matches of the series. Allow him to be out there with Konstas while that sort of stuff is going on. I mean, you can imagine if Nathan McSweeney was out there, he would have known what to do. So I think great stuff from Khawaja. He took the sting out of it. He made Kohli look like an idiot, because you've got, an opponent coming up to you, putting your arm around you. You say, come on, mate, settle down. And also I think another one of Kohli's reactions is because I think it's him facing up to his own diminishing talent. He's seeing this young, talented 19-year-old play like he used to play, with fearlessness, with brashness, with aggression, with the flair that Kohli doesn't have anymore. So I think there was this frustration coming out of Kohli that I used to be this guy. 10 years ago at the MCG, Kohli scored 100 and he was like a young Sam Konstas. Now he's not that anymore. And perhaps, his last test match will be very, very soon. So I think that was that frustration coming out of Kohli, that I used to be like this. So all in all, a disappointing incident, but I would hope that Kohli does not get suspended for the next game. You cannot argue it was Australia's day. 6 for 311 on the first day of a test match with these two batting lineups is a very good output. It could have been much better when they were 2 for 237. Australia could have put this game out of reach, make 500-600, grind India into the dirt. It doesn't seem like that'll be the case, but I do think conditions are not that favourable for batting. I think the pitch is a good hard pitch, but there is assistance for the seam bowlers. It's not a minefield, but you could see even late at the day there was still assistance for the bowling, which is why Konstas' innings was so good. So Australia have, I think, gone ahead in this test match, but they lost 3 for 9 when Labuschagne was out, and that's given India a sniff of hope. I mean, the score 6 for 311. They can bowl Australia out for under 350. India have the second year ball at the moment. Then they're in this game. But I still think Australia have played very well. They've got runs on the board. India's batting lineup has not been good. So it's advantage Australia at the end of day one. And you could put it all down. Well, you can't put it all down, but you can certainly say Sammy Konstas has turned the tide in this series, especially this aura around Bumrah. The fact that we saw Carey late in the day start to charge Bumrah as well. Konstas has shown it can be done against Bumrah, but you have to sort of take an unorthodox approach, and it worked. Yeah, Sammy Konstas 60, Usman Khawaja 57, Marnus Labuschagne 72, and then Smith's not out 68. I guess the criticism you'd have from the top three, not Konstas, but Khawaja and Marnus, is none of them was able to go on and make a big score and then really drive the advantage home. And we'll talk about Marnus Labuschagne's dismissal, but that was crazy. That was the first ball after the drinks break. He was out lofting to mid-off. But let's go back to the beginning of play. So India lost the toss, and so Pat Cummins elected to bat first. Team changes. Australia was as expected. Konstas in for McSweeney, Boland in for Hazelwood. Travis Head passed his fitness test, and they've decided to stick with Mitch Marsh, which we'll talk about later, but that was a terrible shot for him to get out. So Australia, just the 2 changes. India, though, pulled a bit of a surprise. They dropped Shubman Gill. KL Rahul is now going to bat at number 3. Rohit Sharma is now going to open, and Washington Sundar comes in. So they've weakened their batting to strengthen their bowling. Nitish Kumar Reddy is staying. You've still got the 3 quicks of Siraj, Bumrah, and Akash Deep. But now you've also got Jadeja, Sundar as the all-rounders who can bowl spin. So they are sacrificing a specialist batter. But I think you can look at it a couple of ways. I think they wanted to have a long batting lineup and still have bowling options. And I think they were keen to get Rohit Sharma to the top of the order. So to do that, you could put him up the top, move KL Rahul to 3. I think it gives Australia a bit of a glimmer of hope that they'll be thinking, well, this is a long tail for India. A lot of all-rounders there. They'll be, I think, happy not to have to bowl to Shubman Gill the way he's played in the past. So, yeah, surprising change for India. And it does beg the question, what if Ashwin hadn't retired? Would he have been in the frame for this test match? It's an interesting question, but he didn't look to be happy when he retired. So, I think Konstas did face the first ball of the test match against Bumrah. Again, Khawaja just telling the youngster, off you go. You take it, son. Maybe Konstas wanted to do it. I think he did want to take on Bumrah. And we saw him in the 3rd over first tried the reverse ramp shot off Bumrah. He missed the first one, Konstas, but that. So the first hour's play today was some of the most exhilarating test cricket I have ever seen. I don't think there's been a better hour in Boxing Day test history than what we saw this morning. With so much on the line, you've got Australia's youngest test opener. You've got the series on the line. You've got 75, 80,000 people there. And then Konstas in that first hour just took on the Indian bowlers. He felt his way into it. As I said, the first few overs, a little bit quiet. He tried the reverse sweep. But then he just got going. And in 1 over, he went 4-6-4 off Bumrah, a couple, I think 3 lap shots in the over. And in Bumrah's first spell, Konstas smashed 34 off 33 deliveries. And yes, he 18 off 1 over of Bumrah. And it was equal most runs conceded ever off a Bumrah over. It's the first 6s that have been hit off Bumrah since 2021 in Test cricket. And that first hour was just insane stuff. I mean, seeing this youngster, he was charging the bowlers. He had played a beautiful cut shot off Akash Deep behind point on the offside. He was pulling the ball, and he brought up his 50 off just 52 deliveries. And it was just the way he was able to just show that fearlessness of youth and brashness that we've seen him in at lower levels. And he's not, when he plays Sheffield Shield cricket, he's quite orthodox, but I think he realised that, he needed to take on these bowlers. And he hit Bumrah off his length. Siraj got into it. He was sledging Konstas, and it was just fantastic to watch. I don't think you could get a better hour and a half of Test cricket. The fearlessness, the attacking flair of Konstas, and then so it gets to 50 or 52 balls, and all this was happening. There was, the ramp shots. There was the incident with Kohli when he shoulder barged him. You had the veteran at the other end for Khawaja, just able to just bring Konstas through this, crazy period of cricket. So he was, Konstas became the second youngest player to hit a 50 at the MCG, the third fastest half century on debut. And you could tell how rattled India were. They had a fly slip down at third off Bumrah. I mean, this is a test match. In the first couple of hours, you've got a 19-year-old debutant, and Sharma didn't know what to do. And then he brings Jadeja on, which I think it was a good decision to bring Jadeja on. But the first couple of overs of Jadeja, which was crazy, Sharma spread the field. All of a sudden, you had Khawaja and Konstas just able to work the ball around for singles. And very poor captaincy from Sharma. Wouldn't you, if you've got this 19-year-old taking you on, wouldn't you bring Jadeja on and keep sort of the field up and say, all right, youngster, take this guy on and see what you can do? Maybe you get a false shot, but instead he just gave the easy single. Konstas got to 60 of 62 deliveries. Looked so good. You know, he did look set for a century on debut, but then Jadeja, just a ball, sort of, left arm around the wicket, kind of just went straight on and beat Konstas's defence. And he was out LBW. As Mark Waugh said in commentary, he'll probably regret the way he was playing, that he didn't just dance down the pitch and try and hit it for six. It looked like it beat Konstas for pace, just a little bit quicker with the arm for Jadeja. And so Konstas was out for 60. The score was 1 for 89 at this stage. And I mean, I think there was so much disappointment when he was out. But again, thank you, Sam Konstas, because that was what this Australian cricket team needed. They needed someone to take on Bumrah. They needed someone to show he was human. They needed someone to show them a way. And he did it. And he's etched himself into the folklore of Australian cricket. And we've found a genuine superstar. I mean, he's 19 and he's playing shots like that. I wasn't around when Doug Walters debuted, but people talk about his debut very fondly, talk about Greg Chappell's debut. They talk about Mark Waugh's debut, but Mark Waugh was a lot older. He was, mid-20s when he played his first test match. But for a 19-year-old to play that way, and the cricket world is talking, they know who Sam Konstas is now. Like, the whole world knows about him. And I'm sure England will take credit for the aggressive way in which he played. I'm sure Ben Duckett, who's playing for the Stars tonight, will take credit. But nothing to do with England. Australia have always played aggressive cricket, and Konstas just has announced himself as a potential superstar. So incredible stuff. And as I said, that first hour, has there been a better start to a Boxing Day test match? Thinking about it, has there ever been a better start to a Boxing Day test match? I can't remember one. So Australia 1 for 89, Marnus Labuschagne comes in. And here's where a couple of criticisms for Marnus. We'll get to his dismissal in a minute. But I feel that a good number 3 batter can read the situation. And I think the situation called for a little bit more positivity from Marnus. His strike rate ended up at about 50 when he was out, but he was going sort of mid-30s to 40 for the most of his innings. He sort of accelerated towards the end, which is fine. But I just felt with India on their knees, rattled, it could have done with a bit more positive intent from Marnus. I know India bowled well, and I think he got hit twice in the nuts. He got hit twice in a row in the nuts from Marnus. So maybe he wasn't feeling too great. But I just felt there was an opportunity there for Australia to really nail India, and he wasn't able to do it. He ground away, and Australia ended the first session at 1 for 112. So great start to the Boxing Day test for Australia, all down to Sam Konstas's brilliant 60 off 65 deliveries. And then after the lunch break, the slow batting continued. Australia hardly scored a run after lunch. There was 3 or 4 maidens in a row to start the session. Good bowling, but combination of Khawaja and Marnus Labuschagne, it's not the most exciting to watch. And it can't all be laps and lofted shots. They're kind of about like Sam Konstas, but I did feel after that start that there just needed to be a bit more intent, a bit more positivity, because they could then really take advantage of the great start. So Khawaja brought up his first 50 of the series. Nice innings. It's a good partnership with Sammy Konstas, and he ended up being dismissed for 57, just toe-ending one off the end of the bat and caught it mid-wicket. Disappointing dismissal, because he was starting to look really good. I thought Khawaja started to look really good as that innings went on, but bad shot early through the Bumrah delivery, and he went. And Australia only lost 1 wicket in that middle session, but it was a crucial wicket, and it was the Khawaja wicket, and they only scored 64 runs. Australia were 1 for 64 in that middle session. So just kept India in the game, and we'll see later on that Australia just wasn't able to get completely out of India's grasps. Now, Khawaja being out for 57 means and this is from Tim Mitchell, who's a friend of the show, Usman Khawaja is currently stuck in the longest century drought of an Australian opener for almost 2 decades. He's gone 30 innings without reaching triple figures. The last time that happened was when Matt Hayden did it between October 2004 and August 2005. Khawaja's last century was June 16th last year in the Ashes. Perfect time for Khawaja to go. I've said it many times on this podcast. He needs to retire at the end of the Sydney Test match. He was asked about his retirement on ABC Radio before I jumped on. He's a realist. He knows his time is drawing to a close, but I think the perfect time now will be next week in Sydney. He can hand the baton over to Konstas. He's helped his initiation into Test cricket, but now is the time for him to move on. So then, Smith comes out. There was a couple of failed reviews by India trying to get a wicket. And Australia went to tea at 2 for 176. Then after tea, Marnus and Smith started to play really well. They're an industrious partnership. We know how much they love each other. And they took the score from 2 for 176 to 3 for 237 at the first drinks break after the tea break. I think there's 2 drinks breaks every session at the moment because of the stifling heat at the MCG. And I'm just going to have a little bit of a whinge about it. It's very, very frustrating that now when there's a drinks break, it's like a 10-minute timeout. They literally stop. It's not like they run on, have a bit of a drink and a refreshment. It's a proper 10-minute break. So no wonder they can't get through the overs. I'm surprised they're able to get through as many overs as they do. I know it's hot. I know it's hard work, but surely, especially if you're going to have 2 breaks in a session, they should be quick, a few minutes. Get some Gatorade in you or whatever you're drinking, and that's it. Get back out there. It's very, very frustrating. Anyway, so an incredible turn of events then. So they take the first drinks break, Australia 3 for 237, and Australia had this test in their grasp right there. These Marnus and Smith go on and finish the day, Australia, say 4 for 330. So we lose 1 more wicket. It's Australia's day, and they're well ahead in the test match, and they're looking like scoring 450, 500. But first ball, after the drinks break, Marnus skips down the wicket to a Sundar delivery and lofted it straight to mid-off. Kohli takes a great catch just above his head, and Marnus threw away his innings for 72. Now, Gerard Whateley was absolutely savaging Marnus on the SEN coverage. He was saying that, it was so disappointing because, you need hundreds from your number 3. You need hundreds. And he just wasn't able to do it. And he's consistently not been able to deliver hundreds in the last 18 months, Marnus. So it then just completely changed the momentum of the game. Australia lost 3 from 9 for their head, was out for a duck, leaving a Bumrah delivery from around the wicket, just came back in and bowled his off stump. I actually had a feeling Head was going to fail. He's so used to coming out with Australia in trouble. He then, when he came out when Australia was in good form, he wasn't able to go on and make a score. So he was out for a duck. And then I think this is the worst dismissal of the day, was Mitch Marsh. Absolute shocker of a shot off Jasper Bumrah. He tried to slog one from outside off stump, got an edge and was caught by Pants, and he was out for 4 off 13 deliveries. So that meant Australia had gone for 3 for 237. Sorry, 2 for 237 to 5 for 246. And I'm sorry, but that was a shocking shot from Mitch Marsh. He's got to go. He has to go. His stats for this year, 279 runs at an average of 21.46 with 2 half centuries. He also is now averaging under 30 in Test cricket with the bat after 46 Test matches. There is no way you can make an argument that Mitch Marsh is in the top 6 batters in Australia. You can say he's one of Cummins and top 6 mates for sure, but that shouldn't get you a Test selection. This is becoming a joke that they keep carrying these substandard batters. I mean, Marsh had a good year last year, but he's proven he cannot bat at Test level. He is ordinary. I've said it many times on the show, Marsh is a hitter. That's the way he bats. And when he came out against England, he smashed 100 at Headingley. He hit that 100. It was a great innings, but he can only play one way. It's not good enough for Test cricket, and he has to go. You add into that, he's not bowling anymore. It's why are we carrying this guy? What are we doing? I don't get it. So Marsh, shocking dismissal. It's just a farce. It's a farce. Averaging under 30 at Test level, and you've got McDonald in press conferences saying, "Oh, he's one of the top 6 batters in the country." BS. Marsh has to go. I would say Bo Webster comes in. I do think when Cameron Green comes back sort of middle of next year, it changes the makeup of the side. You won't need an all-rounder. You'll have Green as your all-rounder. So you can actually just pick a batter in Marsh's position. But so Marsh goes Australia 5 for 246, and India really coming hard at Australia at this point. Smith's back. He brought up his 50 off 71 deliveries, his 42nd Test 50. Hit a beautiful pull shot over mid-wicket for 6. So he's back in great form with Steve Smith. Alex Carey made an industrious 31 off 41 deliveries. He was counter-attacking. It was actually a classic keeper's knock. I would have liked to have seen him gone on, obviously, from the 31. Got a very good Akash Deep delivery that bounced second new ball, and he was caught by Pant. But he and Smith put on, how much did they put on? 50-odd? Yeah, they put on a 50 partnership, and that really helped they put on 53, I think. So it just stopped the rot right there because, as I said, India were coming home hard, but Carey was very aggressive. He made 31 or 41. He was a good partner for Smith, and that got Australia to 6 for 299. Got them as closer to safety, so to speak, with a respectable first innings. But then he was out. Again, India just kept nipping away at Australia just before stumps when you think maybe Smith and Carey can get to stumps. Carey's out. Australia 6 for 299. And then Cummins and Smith batted through your stumps. So definitely Australia's day. You cannot take that away from them. If they score over 300 runs on the first day, batting first. And Steve Smith is probably their big hope now of getting, that 400 plus score. If Smith can stay there, first session tomorrow and bat around the tail, then Australia can maybe get that big score of 400, 450, and then they're miles in front in the game, you would imagine. But, my assessment of the day is the pitch has still got life in it. So it's not going to be easy for India when they go out there to bat, whatever the score is they're facing. So Australia already, I think, have a competitive score, but it's, whether they can really take it to that, 400 plus range and really boss the game. But yeah, the big talk will be, will Virat Kohli be suspended from the next Test match? If you want to put questions in the chat, I'm going to take them in a minute. So put them in the chat now. But the big question will be, will Virat Kohli miss the next Test match? And I was reading through the rules. I think he's definitely overstepped, and it's probably a level 2 offence. For a level 2 offence, I think he can be fined 3 or 4 demerit points. If it's 4 demerit points, he will miss the next Test match. As I said, I don't want to see Kohli miss the New Year's Test, but I think he should lose 3 points. So yeah, well, look, no questions from the chat. Thanks everybody for watching. An exhilarating day's cricket. Sam Konstas man of the moment. 60 off 65 deliveries, 4 sixes, 6 fours and 2 sixes. So it's been a long day. Usman Khawaja 57, Mana 72, Smith is 68, not out. So, a very good day for the Australia's top order, but disappointing. They couldn't really ram home the advantage. So, anyway, thanks for tuning in to the wrap of day 1 of the Boxing Day test. I'll be back tomorrow with Chandresh Narayanan from India. So I'm sure he'll be laying into Sharma's tactics. I thought, again, at certain points today, they spread the field way too easily and very disappointing. All right, well, that's it. I've been Mendez. So don't forget, rate and review the podcast on your favorite podcast app. Please, you can listen to ad-free versions of the podcast on Patreon. And, please support the show. All the links are in the show notes. I'm going to answer these questions now. I said I would. Chirag, do you think the wicket will improve for batting on the second day? Well, I was surprised. I think it was actually playing better than I thought it would. You could tell the heat has sort of dried it out a bit. Do I think it will improve? I think it will stay roughly the same. The MCG wicket tends to stay the same, has seam movement right the way through it. It can actually die a little bit towards the end. That's one of the things they've changed. I think they've got more life in it in the beginning, so it doesn't die. So I don't think it'll improve much by tomorrow. It will have dried out today, so that would have taken a bit of movement out of it. But we saw at the end of the day, the ball was still nipping around. BDK, will Lyon play in the Ashes and retire then? Look, I think Lyon has a lot of cricket left in him, just because he's had a quiet series and he actually hasn't bowled much. But I still think Lyon is bowling as good as ever. And I think he will play probably the 2027 Ashes, and then that'll be his swan song. So I see BDK, I see Lyon having a long career. All right, well, that's it from the Cricket Unfiltered wrap. I'll be back after day 2, but it didn't disappoint today. Sam Konstas, take a bow.